We come uncensored, unfiltered and unscripted. You know our thoughts, our struggles, and everything we carry. We ask that you guide the conversation. Let it be
We
musical,
can't hear
let
you.
it be truthful, and let it reach these Anglo needs. Open our minds, open our hearts. Help us speak with purpose as we move into today's topic. Lord told us.
Hey, welcome to Off the Record podcast, where no topic is off limits, giving ourselves as well as our guests a space to host. I'm sorry, to be honest, I said host. I don't know what's wrong with me today. To share honest opinions that's uncensored, unfiltered, unscripted. Before we get started, I just have to say this is another disclaimer because the topic that we're doing today. Um, it is a heavy topic because of some recent events that happened in Louisiana. I actually changed the name. I wanted to update it to Breaking the Cycle, Understanding Domestic Violence. And part of it is also with the young man, um, what he did to his family, I guess mental health. So we're going to include both of them. I am your host, Uno, with my co hosts, Farah Monet, Tasha B, and Renee. Tonight, Apex is not here. I want him to sit out on this one, but we'll probably follow up when we do another domestic violence. But before we get into the hot topics, I just want to, how is everybody doing tonight, actually?
We're good. I'm good.
Anything new in your lives?
No.
I don't understand that. I mean, y'all listen, I'm the only one now tonight. I'm the only one that doesn't have children. But y'all is like y'all should be doing a lot of stuff with your kids and your family.
I
Well,
got
we do have.
stepkids.
What
I
happened?
have stepkids. I don't have kids. I have stepkids.
Oh,
Um,
still kids? Well, how old are they though?
they teenagers.
Oh, okay.
Mm,
They don't care nothing about. They don't care nothing about the adults no more.
Yeah, they're probably doing their own thing. Well,
yeah.
Farrah and Farrah Monet and Tasha. I know y'all have young children, so
Yeah, we got a water circus that we went to tonight. So
when you say water circus, it's like Cirque du Soleil type of thing.
I think so.
Because
It's in
I
a
think
tent and
they have one in
everything.
Las Vegas that they do something like that underwater.
Oh, I don't know. It's in a
It's
tent, so I
dope.
don't
It's
know.
dope.
Oh, okay. What happened?
The O show. I love it. Las Vegas
Oh,
show, the O. Yeah, it's really good.
see, I've seen it before. I've never been to a Cirque du Soleil or anything like that. I've been to like when they used to have the circus back in the days. I think I went to a circus once in my lifetime. We didn't have the money like that growing up to be going to all these damn circuses, but I would like to try that. Um, But anyway, so tonight's topic, once again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to Off the Record. Tonight's podcast is going to be um, in reference to what happened in Louisiana. Just as a background story, there was a 31-year-old guy by the name of Shamar Elkins, a father who fatally shot 8 children, including 7 of his own children, in an attack Sunday morning. So apparently, this past Sunday, he shot them, and then um, here's where I'm confused too when you talk about it was all over the place. Some said it was his girlfriend, some say that it was the second lady that he shot was the wife's sister. I don't know what the story is. All I know is he killed children and he
Mhm.
shot the 2 women, and the 2 women are still in critical condition in the hospital. They haven't died. Um, that's probably my first and last time I'm going to mention his name because I don't think that people should really mention his name. We should focus more on the children when it comes to the victims, really, because they range from age 3 all the way up to 11 years old. One account said 14, but the latest I seen that they were actually from 3 to 11. Um, but I'm going to give you a little background on him first. So apparently, he has 2 convictions for drugs and guns, but he has no conviction because I researched him. He has no convictions on domestic violence, and apparently, I don't know what happened in their relationship, but she ended up telling him that she wanted a divorce. That's what made him go. I don't even know if I want to say it was a mental health thing. But that's what made him do what he did to the children, shooting them, the two women and the children, because she wanted to separate from him. Um, so because of that divorce, he made the worst decision of his life, ended the seven, well, all the children's lives basically. So my thing is, have you? And I don't know if you really want to. It's up to you all if you want to talk about it, because I know personally people that have been in domestic violence situation, for all reason, for all different types of reason. But have you all dealt with anybody that have been in a domestic violence situation, and what was the outcome?
It wasn't a person. This is like literal family.
Hmm.
So it could be domestic violence within a family.
Yes.
So yes, on that level, yes. But dealing with a person, I'm a little too psychotic to have somebody beat up on me.
Well, it's so crazy because one of the things that when I was doing my research on this, one of the things that was being said by a lot of the victims was like they never thought that they would be in a situation like this, but yet they found themselves in this situation. So, I mean, some people, I don't even know how to put it really. For me, I don't
I
know
think
how to state it because I don't think I'll ever be in and I've been in fist fights before, even with I've been in fist fights before, right? With or brawls, but you never think that it's a domestic situation until it becomes like it's a repeated thing. So,
yeah, I think that I've been in a domestic situation, um, and I didn't think that I would be a part, like I would be, because I'm crazy too. You know what I'm saying? So, I didn't think that I would ever be in that situation. I did not wait to get out. I waited longer than I should have to get out, but I didn't wait. It was like years or whatnot. There were certain things that kind of like would make you stay or like go back, whether it be something of value that you still have there, or they're withholding something from you to kind of get you to go back. But um, I I have been in situations before, and I've known people to be in situations like that before, and it is just one of those things where it's like I think it's from the outside looking in. I think it's easy to say like, okay, just leave, just leave, just leave, but the reality of it is, it's not that easy. I mean, just we just look at the situation with like the movie. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know it, but like The Burning Bed with Farrah Fawcett, like it
mhm,
just was not that easy for her to leave, or safe for her to leave. So she felt like the best thing for her to do was burn his ass in that bed. So she did. So it is just, I don't know. It's a it's a tricky situation. It's hard to judge the person who stays, um, in it. So
see, I'm gonna tell you this, and please don't. Y'all love me, so y'all know I'm
mhm.
usually on the other side of the fence, right? Because I'm one of those
Why are
people.
you playing devil's advocate right now?
No, no, no. I'm not playing devil advocate. I think what he did is it's terrible what he did.
Mhm.
But when you say don't judge you, right? And I've never been in a domestic violence. Listen, I grew up in a neighborhood. I remember when I was growing up, there was this one older lady. Her husband was beating her behind in the house. You could hear her yelling, right?
Mhm.
And the SWAT team had to come and rescue her. And
Mhm.
then she'll leave. A week later, she comes back. Guess what? The SWAT team had to come back. So it's not really playing devil's advocate. At what point do you look at the victim and be like, technically it's your fault. Because if I'm saving you, I told my friend today, I'm only saving you once from a domestic violence situation. If you remove yourself and then you decide to go back, don't call me again, because typically the innocent person is usually the one that usually gets hurt along with the person who's being beaten on, right? So for me, I
I'm not
feel like,
saving anybody from a domestic situation.
see, and that's how I feel. So at what point do you blame the person that keeps on going back? It's one thing if you're there and it's happening and you're in the house, right? And it's hard to leave. But if you actually remove yourself from the situation and you go back, do you blame that person that keeps on going back?
We
I
don't know
don't
what the
think it's
fact.
like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think it's the. It's kind of like you can't blame the person. You don't know what the factors are that's making them go back. You don't know. You don't know if it's about the kids. You don't know if it's about just safety. Just safety. Maybe he's dangerous. Maybe he's come to get you and brought you back. It could
Right.
be a lot of different factors that are causing you to go back. But I don't know. You can't really blame the victim. In my mind, I feel like you always have to blame the offender because
Oh, I
he
do.
shouldn't be doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, if it wasn't her, it'd be somebody else. So he's still going to do it regardless of. It's just like, but yeah, you have a duty to keep yourself safe and those in your family safe. But regardless of how many times she goes back, is it the smartest thing? No. I mean, it's like throwing yourself in front of a train. No, it's not smart. However, you know, he has a duty to also not be her ass.
Yeah.
Um,
I think for me, I think that in domestic violence situations, it's also, I agree, it's hard to tell exactly the situation that's going on because a lot of times what they do is after they tell a family member or someone what's going on, they might not tell you all the facts to what's going on. They're
Right.
just, they're venting one day and you hear a little piece and then couple weeks later you hear something else and you're like, what, you didn't tell me that. So a lot of times they're not forthcoming with exactly the scope of the situation or whatever it is. um, and I haven't personally been in a domestic violence relationship, but I've had close family members and friends that have been. And a lot of times when you're trying to help them or quote unquote save them, they have to get to a point into the relationship where they're like, hey, I'm exiting this, um, in order for it to, really happen for them.
and
I
that's
don't think
exactly
it
what.
just, that's the thing. I don't think it just starts off with the person just randomly hitting them out of the blue. I think a lot of the time it starts off with little stuff
Hmm.
and they push it to see how far they can go with it. And it's like a psychological breakdown to the point where that person really feels like worthless and they can't be without this person. And then the physical stuff starts. And how can you get out of that when your mindset is trapped?
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
You feel like you can't do any better.
Corey, come
So
get
it's what can you do? You can't, some people really don't have an avenue to leave because sometimes the person that they're with is so controlling that if they step uh, like a little bit out of the norm, that triggers something in that person, and then all of a sudden they're being beaten within an inch of their life because the car was you went 2 miles out of the way and they're checking the mileage on little things like that. People are crazy.
Yeah,
That's
like you said, like you say, like I feel like I'm sorry, Ella, but like when you going back to like when you say they're beat down. It's a process. It's like they beat them down mentally so that they could get to them physically, and now they are so dependent on you because they're broken down so much mentally. They don't feel worth. They don't feel even wanted or able, or like they don't think that there's anything else out there for them. That he is or that person is, you know, the only person.
so y'all know me. Y'all know me.
Hmm.
Y'all listen. I am not defending this guy at all.
Hmm.
I would not want it to happen to any one of my nephews and nieces. But I want to point out something because when I was doing my research on domestic violence, they were saying that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men age 18 and older in the United States have been a victim of severe physical violence by intimate partner. They call it intimate partner now. Um, do you view domestic violence differently for women and men, or do you view it the same?
No, I think it's the same for men and women. I think a lot of times she was mentioning it starts off, it's not like you just gonna run up and punch. It's like maybe they're going back and forth. Maybe it's a tit for tat thing and it spirals out of control. And now he's physically taking over the situation. Um,
Hmm.
so but I think that women can also be violent and and also be the one that is the abuser. So I think it's both ways. Um,
Yeah. So, and you know, being in the Black community, I try to focus on stuff to social justice for our community, even though domestic violence can happen across the board. What they were saying is that in the Black community, domestic violence is actually higher than any other race because of lack of resources. Resources, excuse me, education, um, people not wanting to tell because they fear of judgment. Which leads me to a question: in our community, how can we effectively try and make change? Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's in a situation so that way we can try and effectively make change in their lives or even in our community?
I would say reach out to local resources. There's a lot of work, local resources and support groups for women, that you can, and men that you can work with in your local community. Um, a lot of churches have groups. You can go in therapy and all kinds of stuff. So I think just using the resources that are readily available to them within their local community.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some information in the at the end of the show where they can reach out because I just discovered that there's actually a number that you can text. Because who's gonna remember 800 number when you getting your behind beat? I need to make sure I text real quick and be like, hey, I don't know if people can text like the police stations and
You
stuff.
can text 911.
You can now?
Yeah,
I
you
knew.
can.
Okay. Well, listen, I learned something new.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You
neither did
can
I.
text
That's good.
if you're not able to call,
Mhm.
if you're in a situation where you're not able to like call because it's obvious, you can text
Mhm.
911. Hmm.
Wow. Okay. That's new to me. I didn't know that either.
I know, I know. For me, I feel like, well, hopefully,
I
I've
know
needed
there's
to
a
do that.
symbol or a sign when you're walking, but I didn't know.
You know what? I've heard of that before, and I need to know what the sign is. I remember there was well, let me tell you something before we even go on to that, because Farah and I actually worked with a lady before that actually ended up getting killed. We actually
Really?
when we was and she's actually on Fatal Attraction. So I have a cousin that was on
What?
Fatal Attraction
What
because her
episode?
boyfriend killed her, and then this young lady, her name is Shawnee Sumter, and I'll just give you the background story because um we work with her in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm not going to say the name of the company, but it's a big company because I do adjusting, right? Well, we do adjusting, and I remember the day Farrah hit me up. She like, "Hey, Shanice is missing." I was like, because she used to call me JJ. I don't know why the hell she called me JJ, but that was her nickname for me. And I'm like, missing. It was it was Farrah, me, her, and her best friend. We all worked in the building together. And so fast forward when she was missing, they ended up finding her body because her boyfriend shot her in the head and left her body in the car. And she had a young son at this time too. And what was so crazy is that, and this is why I'm asking because apparently in the show her sister mentioned that she was being abused by this guy, but she kept on going back for whatever reason. She kept on going back. But apparently she had gotten hired at a company out in Jacksonville and she had rented a car, took him to Jacksonville with her, and on the way back, apparently from because I watched the news report and everything that was happening because I watched it wasn't on Fatal Attraction, it was on Fatal Attraction, but they also did a follow up documentary on it. And apparently, some other female called. He was driving the car, and it came through on the speaker because he connected his phone to the speaker in the car. They got in an argument, but she had already been being abused by this man several times over. And that particular day, he actually ended up shooting and killing her, leaving her body in the car. Called his friend. The friend came. The friend didn't even know what happened, but the friend came, picked him up, and it was a lady that lived in that neighborhood that called the cops and said, "Hey, we have this car here, and it's been here for a couple of days." They came out, and that's when they found her a couple of days later. So my
Mm,
thing is like she was already almost gone because she was supposed to move for this job, but she invited him back into her life. So it's kind of like, at what point do you hold that person responsible for the outcome? Like, I'm not trying to say that it was right what he did, but you were actually a foot out the door.
Well, I
They
think a
weren't
lot of it
because
is
they weren't
mental,
doing none of that. You actually invited him back into your life knowing his history.
but a lot of it's mental. A lot of it's the when you're in those types of relationships, it's a lot of mental turmoil. It's a lot of, oh, I should leave him, but he does this, and like they say, love bombing and stuff like that occurs. And you come back,
Vincent, I'm on the
you wrap back in, and and then next thing you know, you're back in it, and then he's great for 3 weeks. He shows you all
Same.
the reasons why you fell in love with him. He put it down, if you know. And so you get back into the swing of things.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's true.
Yeah, and then
People are just ties, coochie ties, or whatever it is. It's like,
yeah, and the next thing you know,
I mean, they can always call me, but
yeah, something small occurs, and then it sets him off or sets her
Yeah.
off, and then it spirals. So you just never know. I know that, like, for my family members, it's always like looking from the outside, looking in. You're like, man, this is escalating, and like your family and friends can see, like, man, this is escalating. This is getting dangerous, and you never know where that person's psyche is at. So all you could be is like that available, person for them to talk to if you need.
But it's not also just like the best advice from a person that's like like a person within your, I would say that you're in a relationship with, because you got some men that do not take no for an answer and get to a point where if I can't have you, nobody will, and will kill the woman. And that's happened in my family where the guy just literally killed her just because she wasn't interested in him. And he was harassing her for a while. And she kept, letting him know like she's not interested. And he caught her by herself one day and literally almost took her head off. So, and I'm gonna say I was about 13 when that happened. And I will never forget that situation because it was so crazy. But you have women that stay because they have kids, they can't do any better, especially if they don't make the income to survive on their own, and they have kids with this person, so they tolerate the abuse until their kids get old enough that they can get away.
Yeah, but
I,
sometimes
I,
even make it to get old.
I I also don't think that there is a lot of knowledge about what is available. Like what Tasha was saying earlier, there's churches available, stuff like that, and there's resources available in your town or your city. And sometimes I know I had a friend who she lived like an hour and a half away. They moved her to the domestic shelter here, and will put you up in an apartment. Have you there for a few weeks or a week or whatever, and they'll put you in an apartment. But also, like your companies, a lot of companies allow you to move or they give you resources. They have resources at your companies. They also you get resources at your company, and then um, uh, even like your leases, like your rental, like they'll let you out of your lease if it's related to domestic, and that's law. I think it's just about knowledge of what is available to you, um, and it is an embarrassing thing, right? So like I think a lot of women are a little ashamed or a little embarrassed because they never thought that they would be in this situation either. So they're not talking about it. They're not speaking about it. It is a secret because if I have to, I have a good job and I'm leaving my husband. I'm going to leave with just me and my son to a shelter, and nobody knows why I'm leaving him or nobody knows what's going on. I'm embarrassed because I've allowed myself to get beat up and and everything is slapped on and everything like that. So now I'm embarrassed. And that was the it's a lot of factors that go into why women stay.
I have a question for you, Farah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talk. Okay, so this is how Farah and I met. Okay, we actually met because they had orientation. We sat next to each other, and she was the funniest person. Her and plus our other buddy was the funniest person, you know. So we always laugh. But one of the things that she told me, because the person that she was dating was a Caribbean guy, and she anytime she heard a dialect that was Caribbean, it automatically made her flinch. So she didn't like me up front because she said I don't hear my accent, other people do, but she like that's why she didn't like me, right? Yeah, listen, I have
Trauma.
a whole list of
Trauma.
people that didn't like me in the beginning, but they love me now, right? So it I have in reference to my question when it comes to did you tell anybody when it happened, when it was happening? Like, did you reach out to anybody? And what
No,
was your situation?
no. My mom said to me, he's a little controlling, and I was like, you think so? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, no, he's not controlling, but he was. And I wasn't, it wasn't clicking to me what was going on. He had never hit me by this point. He never actually hit me. He pushed me, he threatened me. He threatened me with weapons. He stole stuff. He was very verbally abusive, a lot of intimidation, um, threats and stuff like that. It's scary. He was a lot older. He lied about his age, but my mom was like, he was
That's the thing I
controlling.
was gonna say. Age.
Hmm. He lied about his age. He ended up being what I thought he was like 5 years older. He didn't be like almost 10 years or more older than me. And
Hmm.
he was so then he would start treating me like his kid. Like he was like I had a bedtime and he would be like, y'all go in there, like his daughter would come up and be like, y'all go in there, go to sleep. And I'm like, and we would like be like, go to sleep like we were in trouble. Like it was like, and then it started clicking, like he is a little controlling. And then just one time he was mad about the way that I washed his clothes. He came upstairs and he threw them clothes and ran up on me like he was playing football, chest bump me, and I thought I was gonna lose my mind. I ran up on him back and I
Hmm.
said, one of us will not make it out of here. You ever put your hands on me, one of us will not make it out of here. And I put money that I'm not gonna be the only one that's gonna make it out.
Hmm.
And he got mad, he was slamming stuff, you know. I see who the man of the house is now, da da da. I mean, say what you want to say, right? He was gambling. He was spending up all of my money. I had an inheritance. He was spending up all of my money. And when I left, um, I ended up, he had all of my stuff, everything that I owned was in that apartment. He had everything. So I had to go back, but he had changed the lock, so I couldn't go back. So I had to make nice so I can go back and get my stuff. And I made nice to get my stuff. And then, like, I was sleeping with weapons underneath my pillow. Like, I wouldn't sleep in the bed. I was sleeping with weapons underneath my pillow because I did not
You
know when he
actually,
came home. I went back,
yeah, I mean,
but then my mom didn't know why I can't. My mom didn't know why I left. She just thought we got into a fight. So, got into an argument. So I went back, and then he threatened me and said, and I called the police, and then he called the police and lied, right? So then I had to leave again with just the clothes on my back. There was a
Wow.
police officer downstairs that like kind of knew a little bit about what was going on, and that was only my saving grace. So I left again, but then I came back,
mm,
right? But then I came back and I made nice with him for about maybe like a week. And I knew I was leaving, but I would just spend my nights at my mom's house and come back like just to go to sleep. And one day he had said something about somebody took something from him and he was going to get their hands chopped off. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, asked me like, you act like you don't want to be here. And I was like, I kind of don't, and this was like at 12 o'clock. I would start work at 12:30. And at 12 o'clock, he said, well, you don't have to come back. But I left after him. So I left that lock unlocked. So he didn't know that I couldn't get back in. I, I called the moving company. I said, can you meet me over there in 30 minutes? I called my mom and I called my sister. I said, he hit me. I'm ready to go. They came up there. They helped me pack all my stuff. I left the polo suit that I bought him and I left the sheets and I took everything else. And
Okay.
I never saw him again. He tried to call the police on me about stealing. The police knew he was full of shit. They didn't care. And he came and broke into my car and stole some stuff, but that was it. I never had to deal with him after that ever again.
Wow.
Um, so but
so
it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went back 3 times over some shit, over just
and
Physical, like monetary stuff that have no meaning now.
But
that's
you're
where I
thinking
have
like I'm gonna have to completely start over. Like I just at least want to get my stuff and take a clean break.
you know
Yeah.
just open up my eyes to something honestly because I'm one of those that I'm like, why the hell would you go back 3 times in my head
Hmm.
for the story, right? Because I'm always saying that we know that the most dangerous time is when you're leaving. So
Hmm.
that's why I never understood why people put this. I can understand if you're living there already and
Hmm.
you're trapped, but if you actually escape and you keep on going back, that's the problem I have issues with. So that's why I said to me, I feel like who do we blame? I know we blame the abuser, but at some point, do we also blame the victim? But
No, I would never blame the victim.
but now when
I
Tasha
would say
said,
it's all about the context, and I would say
you
it's
have
about
a good
context
point. But now,
because everybody is not the same.
no,
Hmm.
true.
You understand what I'm saying?
I get that.
Hmm.
But when Tasha just said that you have to start over because of personal, that actually resonate with me because I never thought about that before. I always thought about why the hell are they going back? But it never
Hmm.
sat with me like I'm leaving everything and I have to start from scratch. So it actually, yeah, it just opened a light in my
It's
head.
that mental thing. It's like, dang, I have nothing,
Right, right,
nothing, and I don't have the means to get it all back.
Mm,
I
right.
have
You
nothing.
gotta, yeah, you gotta play it safe and you gotta play it cool.
Hmm.
Especially if you're trying to move in silence, you just won't be like, "Oh, I'm leaving." No,
So
you don't make it obvious.
so let me
Hmm.
ask you all this then, because I really just wanted women's perspective on this. In a situation like that where you leave everything behind, would you advise them to go back for their stuff?
No, let me tell you why I wouldn't. Because in that situation, when I left everything behind, I ended up putting something. I had ended up putting everything in storage, right? And about 6 months later, everything in my storage got stolen. I don't know who stole it. I don't know what happened. But when I went to go start over, my mom gave me her. I was living with my mom. So then when I went to go start over and got my new apartment, my mom just gave me her old furniture. So when I was moving into my new apartment with the new furniture, I was looking at this piece of mail that the storage place sent me saying that your storage was cleaned out. And I kept thinking like I went through all of that. I made myself go through all of that just to still be here and still be okay with nothing that I went back for.
Mm,
I went
mm.
back for everything and I still don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I risked my life 2 additional times just to get that stuff back.
See, and I
Jeopardizing.
think a lot of women need to hear stuff like that. Like they're like, oh, because listen, I watch a lot of crime shows. This is why I'm not in a relationship now because I watch too many damn crime shows. So it's like, I'm afraid. Listen. People know I've
If
already.
you were living in the Midwest, I'd be very afraid because that's where all the murders quite as kept happen.
Listen, I'm afraid.
Women that kill and all this stuff is always in the Midwest. I don't
Listen,
understand that.
I watch Fatal Attraction. I watch Fair Neighbor. I watch Snap. I'm not in a relationship because of these damn crime shows, but I feel like in a sense women need to hear stuff like this. Like once you say that you're done, be done. Because
Hmm.
you can always rebuild from nothing. Listen, you can put a futon in my place and I'll be happy. Futon and food and my computer.
You'd be
And I'll be
surprised at how happy I was with none of the stuff that I
yeah,
went back for. I was
because
happy.
you're risking your life over material possession that can always be regained. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I don't know the situation with what happened in Louisiana, but I think that lady, in a sense, she had to be done because they were together on and off for a long time, right? And for her to say that she's finally done and this is the outcome, what this guy did to those children, her and the other lady, um, I can see why she was done. It's just unfortunate that she took this long to be done with somebody. But and honestly, the guy I researched his history. He has no history of domestic violence. He has no history of mental illness. Apparently, the day that she actually told him that she was getting a divorce from him. He called his mother and his stepdad, and he's like, "She wants a divorce." And the stepdad turned around and said that, you've dealt with much worse. You can actually live through this because the guy's a military vet as well. The guy who ended up,
Hmm.
so his stepdad was trying to tell him, hey, you're gonna survive this. Unfortunately, he ended up doing something worse than just leaving and surviving. And I kind of feel like it was a mental break because they always said that he was a family man. One of the radio DJs that's here in Texas actually knew him personally. He was like, "Look, you would never think that this man was this type of person. He was always friendly. He always talked about his family. He always spent time with his children." So it's kind of like it's a blend of probably domestic violence, verbally, physically, mentally, and then also now your children is being taken away. So now it's a mental break. So I
And
kind
he's a vet. You don't know if it's a PTSD thing either.
He
yeah.
never saw
It could be a
combat.
plethora of yeah.
He
And he
never saw.
didn't.
They
Oh,
say he never
then
saw
I don't know.
combat.
But honestly, I feel like, and I'm not trying to justify what he did, but you never know how people are going to react, right? Because if you're a family man, yeah, you might have issues in your relationship. You never think that you're going to take it that far. But some men feel that if you take their child away from them or their children away from them and that's all they have, it can play with you. And unfortunately, he did the ultimate because now he really took his children away from, well, they end up shooting and killing him, but he ended up taking the
But
children's lives.
and, and every person that I've met that I've talked to who's been through a divorce, they always tell me that their husband, they never would have thought that their husband would react or act in that way, in the way that they acted during the divorce. They
Mhm.
said that something about losing everything does change them. Not giving anybody an excuse, but they do say, I was like, Carlos would never do that. Carlos would never do that. And I firmly believe that, still believe that. But then so did every other woman that I've talked to that said, yeah, I didn't think he would ever do that. I didn't think he would ever steal money from me. I didn't think he would ever wipe out our bank accounts. I didn't think he would ever, try to take our kids. I never thought he would do that. Um, but here he is doing it. So I think that is something breaks in a man when they lose their family. And this is somebody told me yesterday. He said
I ain't gonna lie to you,
your
I'd rather
wife
smoke dope before I take
is
my
what.
family's life.
Yeah, well they say like your fam, like when you have your wife and your family, they're like your they are a an expression of your success.
Right, right, right.
So when you lose them, it is an expression of your failure. It shows people that you failed, and I think that's where that I think that mindset is because he was like, you give your wife the better car because now your wife is driving in a nicer car. That is a show of your success. This is how people see you. Your wife driving a nice car, your wife looks good, this, that, and the other. But then when you lose it all, what do you have to show? And I think that is hurt. That hurts on their psyche.
Ego,
Ego, yeah.
Why you say ego?
Because
because
it is an ego thing.
yeah, it's an ego thing.
When a man loses everything and it breaks him like that, it's an ego thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to explore that. Well, I have deep demons, not like that, but I definitely need therapy myself. So honestly, it would. Listen, I tell people one thing about me. I'm a private person, but I'm also honest about who I am. I understand myself very well, but um, I would have never imagined it was an ego thing. But I guess that's where a lot of men lately I've seen where men say they want to build a legacy and their children is that legacy. So I can
Hmm.
understand how you would say ego. So what would be the one advice that you give women or men in a domestic situation?
It ain't for him. It's not worth it. For her, just go. Research your options and go.
hmm
I always say a person is a need, not a want. Is not sorry. A person is a want and not a need.
Hmm.
I need food to eat. I need air to breathe. I don't need a person in my life that's gonna like take away from me. That person is supposed to add to your add to your life. And if that person is not adding to your life, then you need to let that person go.
Hmm.
What's the point of sitting there beating on a person because you the broken person, but you want to make somebody more broken than you so
Yeah.
you can have control? Like, no, you value yourself a little bit more and leave. I know it's hard to say, oh, it's not easy to leave, but I feel like the first time it happened, whether it be verbal, like psychological, when you start to get that feeling like, oh, something right here, it's time to go.
It's so crazy that you say that because
uh,
I'm thinking here to myself. I'm sorry. I'm thinking here to myself. People would. People in a relationship, they will cut you off after you cheated one time, but they really won't cut you off after they done beat your ass a couple. That's the crazy.
Well, well, yeah, it goes back to that connection. I will say some people, so you can't stay in a relationship, would be my advice. You can't stay in a relationship with the hope that that person's going to change or they're going to do something different. You have to allow them to get the help because sometimes they do have other demons and other things that are in their life that are presenting that way. I know for myself, when I get really angry, I can see red. And
Mm.
and if you're too close, I might swing the arm. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm all in this, And so how I was raised was very like up in your face. So a
Mm.
lot of times for me, a lot of times for me, and I think a lot of people, because you have these things, you have to like work on it internally within yourself and get the help to say, okay, how can I communicate with you differently so I don't get to a point of rage or I don't get to a point where this is going to become physical, or I don't get to the point that this escalates to where you get physical with me because you want to shut me up or you want to, because my mouth is so busy talking, I strike the wrong, I say the wrong thing, and now you're swinging on me. So
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times you cannot change someone that has like deep rooted issues. It has to be a change within themselves. So I would say to someone, for my advice would be, don't stick around for a change.
Right, right, right. You know? I don't know. Well, my advice, because I won't tell other people's story, but my brother-in-law, his sister was killed by her boyfriend, I think, or her husband at the time. He actually shot her too. She lost her life. I had a cousin that was 18. Her boyfriend killed her. She was on Fatal Attraction. She lives South Florida, and then also the lady that we work with. My thing is that my biggest advice: do not tell anybody when you're leaving. Shut your god-forsaken mouth. Just
Mhm.
escape the best way. Make your own plans, because I've seen where, like I said, I watch a lot of criminal shows. I've seen when a man or lady be like, "I'm leaving you today," and then next thing you know, they disappear. So I would definitely say
Well,
never
I don't
tell
agree with
that
that
abuser
because
your plan. No, don't tell the abuser your plan. You can tell family and friends,
uh,
but don't tell your abuser.
because a lot of times, and here's the victim shaming, they're like, oh well, you didn't tell anybody. So now a lot of times when the guy gets caught or he goes through with criminal charges, they're looking at the fact that, hey, she never self-reported anything. You don't have any texts or any communication to
True.
any family or
Well,
friend.
I would never blame somebody in a situation that's being that never filed it, because yeah, I would never shame somebody that's been in a domestic situation, because I remember a story literally where this lady was getting beat by her boyfriend, and she went to the police, and we're gonna be over on time, but she went to the police station to file a complaint, and she said, "Please do not go to the house, because if he finds out, he's going to beat me." The damn police officers went to the house, talked
Hmm.
to the boyfriend. She ended up going home, not realizing that he was there. He ended up killing her because she filed a police report. Now she invited them into her business. So for me, I do not blame a victim for not telling the police or filing a police report. I say get out safely and then file the police report. But definitely tell a family or friend that you trust, that will not go back, and that can help you make a plan to escape. But definitely never tell the abuser, because the abuser is gonna, like you say, it's all about control, right? The abuser is gonna try and control the situation, trying to apologize, and then next thing you know, you're falling right back into the same situation that you're trying to leave. So never to, and then on top of that,
But what if you're married? So like the Justin Fairfax, the former
I'm out.
lieutenant.
I don't care if I'm married or not. I'm out. Do not tell the abuser. Do not, and if you have to leave and you
So if
have to
you're
go back
saying
to
I want
stuff,
to, I want to file for divorce, I'm done. I want to file for divorce.
do not tell your abuser. You can file for divorce after you have escaped. because if you tell them, the chances of you surviving is going to be slim to none. If you already
Get a lawyer, domestic violence shelter. That way you can hide, they can hide you. Do not get on the internet because once you go into a domestic violence shelter, you cannot, they're going to change your phone number. Your phone number is gone.
password, see
You
email,
can't, everything,
there was a
your
young
digital footprint is going to get canceled.
gonna tell you something.
And
Like,
There was a young lady recently. Her parents just sued the university. Same thing with this young lady. And I'm gonna say the race of this young lady. It was a white young lady, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She ended up meeting this bouncer at a club that turned out to be 10 years older than her. He started to stalk her, right? She called police. She called the campus police. She called the local police, and they were like, "Hey, you have to call the campus police because it goes through, right?" Come to find out, this man was tracking her because at
Stalking.
one point she had logged in to her Facebook or something on his computer. So all the emails that she was sending back and forth to friends and family, he was tracking because it was logged in on his computer. So if you're going to do anything, yes, change your number, but also change every password to any banking information that you have, any emails, any social media, because you never want to give them access to your life and what you're doing. And he ended
yeah,
up to the school and shooting her. While she was on the phone with her mother, he ended up shooting and killing her.
and domestic shelters, like, if you look, you can't locate a domestic shelter via like maps. They're at, and you can't pick up anybody from a domestic shelter. You have to pick them up like on a corner or something like that. Like, you can't do that. So that's another thing. So there is a is protected in that way, in that sense as well. Wherever they send you, whatever shelter they send you to, and they will Uber to pick you up. They will drive however far they need to drive and pay for an Uber or whatever it is to come pick you up and drop you off.
Mm.
And nobody will know who you are. You'll be 100% protected.
There was a lady at one point. It was years ago when I seen this, where she actually created an underground type of thing for women that was being abused. Basically, it was certain family members and places that you could contact, and she'll get you out, and then you'll go to another home, and then the home would take you to shelters and stuff like that. And I have to remember, it's been years since I've heard about it, but I wish there was something like that where people had access to things like that, because I know shelters, they say sometimes shelters is hard to get into, so I don't know how it is with domestic violence shelters, if it's as hard as
They'll
well.
find you a place, and that's the thing. They'll find you a place. They
yeah.
they have they will if there's not one locally, you get to, I think they'll give you like a choice as to which one you want to go to, and they'll pay to send you there, even if it's out of state. They will pay for you to send you there.
Mm,
Yeah, the
They'll find a
property
place
that I worked for, they had apartments that were strictly for domestic violence. We had no idea who was in those apartments. Um, we never saw the people. Um,
that is smart.
everything
That is smart.
everything was under the company's name.
hmm
So
Mm,
they had the keys, they had the access. We just knew that we didn't even know which apartments were for domestic violence persons. That's how like they could not, that's how I know that the digital footprint they had to like really
They
like,
delete it. It's like,
I'm gonna
yeah,
say, if somebody's in a domestic violence situation, they have to live in an apartment complex. Even gated communities are more expensive, but I want that apartment complex to have a security guard out front. I want you to have gates, and I also want you to have cameras to where it takes pictures of the people's license plate that's going and coming. Because if something was ever to happen to that individual in that apartment, at least you have some form of, you may not know necessarily that they went to visit that apartment, but you can literally go through the history of a license plate and stuff like that to see, hey, does this person have any.
Who came in and who came out?
Yeah,
hmm
because they do that and I only know that because they do it in Disney when people come to travel, um, to work for Disney. They live on Disney property. They have security guards in the front that check your license, and they also have security cameras that scan the plates. So yeah, but that wraps it up for us. I do appreciate you all. Oh, once again, thank you very much, Renee and Fair, for sharing your stories about domestic violence.
Yes,
Tasha,
thank
I'm
you.
glad you ain't never been beat, girl. Because if you see red, I'll probably have to bail you out. Right. But look, I
I got
definitely
5 on it.
Right. I definitely appreciate you all. I am going to leave some information. I'm going to play the music out. I am going to leave some information in the video for people that's dealing with domestic violence. I'm also going to leave our contact for Facebook, YouTube, and also
TikTok.
yeah. So if anybody wants to reach out to, well, I don't even know. I probably would try and help somebody with domestic violence as far as giving them information and researching it for them. But yeah, just reach out to us, and hopefully people can give us feedback on their situation, and we can also do another part 2 to domestic violence. But I really appreciate y'all for speaking with me today, and we can get this out to individuals.
Bye.
Okay.